Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, nice to see everybody over here. And some people we get to see them just in their logos. Today's subject that I would like to touch on is a little bit of a connection to last week's subject. Last week's subject, we spoke a little bit about a person doing a shtadlus. And this week, I want to discuss the other side of the coin, which is maybe the more religious side of the coin, maybe the more difficult side of the coin. It's called the Emunah and Betochen. Now here we have a teaser. We have some kind of a tension between the two things. On one side, we're supposed to be trying our best. And on the other side, we're supposed to also be having Betochen, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's going to make everything work out. The first Ramban in the beginning of the parsha tells us that Yaakov Avinu, he was mishtadel bechol koichai. He did everything in his power to make it all happen, that he should be successful in his endeavors in this week's parsha, it's with his endeavors with Esau. Last week's parsha was with Lavan, but he was no slouch. And what it's called is shtadlus, and how does a person face adversary? I'm going to share with you a story that I heard, and this story is unbelievable. I think that this story happened within the last 2 years. It's not more than 5 years old. You know, it's a relatively new story. It's a sad story, and yet uplifting from one side. Again, I'm not judging the people involved. It's hard to judge people that you don't know and you don't know the circumstances. But there's somebody in Bnei Brak that decided to build out a merpeset. And he built out his merpeset. And the neighbor was unhappy with his building out merpeset. So he went and he opened a tick in the area. I don't know if people heard of this thing. This is like some kind of a unheard of kind of a thing. I don't know if you ever heard of this. And the neighbors in the building heard about this. Now, the cost, I didn't understand when I heard the story. The cost, I'm not sure if it was for the fine or for the demolition of the thing. You know, I'm not sure what the cost was. It really doesn't make much of a difference. It's 100,000 shekel piece. In other words, the bottom line, the loss on having this thing taken away was 100,000 shekel. We have to speak to Aryeh Beer to find out exactly how much 100,000 shekel is. But according to me, it sounds like a lot of money. Anyways, and the people in the neighborhood, they heard about this, and they were really annoyed at this guy who he malshined, this moiser, to the area. You can have some problem, go and speak to the guy, go to Bezdin, but go be moiser on him, causing the guy 100,000 shekel loss. That is, we can't live that down. So what did the neighbors of Tzadikim do? The neighbors of Tzadikim went to the fellow who was now going to have this hefsid, and he says, you know, the Malshin himself, he made an addition to his apartment, which is illegal. Go and threaten him that if he doesn't close a tick in the area on you, you're going to open a tick in the area on him. And he deserves it. Okay, what do you guys say? Where I come from, they say all's fair in love and war, right? Is that what we're supposed to say at this point? Okay, what are we supposed to say? Yeah, you're off.
You're not supposed to say that.
You're not supposed to say that.
That for
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Right.
Two wrongs don't make a right. Okay. All right.
What
I agree with
exactly,
both of
I'm not sure, but
There's also Lotikon with Lotito.
Well, this is not, that's not Lotiko Tito. This is called he's trying to put some leverage on no, this is a threat, right? He's doing a threat, you know, and maybe he'll be able to save his money. This is called hishtadlus. What's the matter with you people? This is hishtadlus. Mel, you disagree with me?
A little bit.
A little bit, okay. I like that derech eretz. That's very nice. It's, Anyways, so this is the question: is this a shtadlis? Is it loisikam loisitor? And I'm sure that this guy's blood is boiling, right? And the neighbors, and he deserves it. That the scum of the earth or whatever, and he deserves it. That he should sit behind bars. Speak to Jonathan Pollard, and he'll explain to him what it's all about. I don't know what we have to do with this guy. Anyways, listen to what the guy said. The guy said, "What should I do? If the Eibishter wants me to lose 100,000 shekel, what does it have to do with that guy? How come nobody had that answer?" This is a true story. I didn't make this up, okay? Even if I made it up, it's a nice story, but I didn't make it up. Anyways, so they told him, you're going to lose 100,000 shekel. He says, that's what Kodesh Baruch Hu wants. That's what he wants. And everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm not going to moister on somebody else, and that's fine. The tractors came to demolish his house, and he stood there and he sung, Ein Oid Levadai, Ein Oid Milvadai. Now, speaking about a person who believes, there's a lot of people who they believe, but they only believe till a certain point. There's a famous joke about a guy who was stranded and he fell out. I remember there's a few different versions of the thing, but the bottom line is he was hanging out for his life on the middle of the string, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, do you believe? He says, just save me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Of course I believe. So he said, let go with one hand. He says, let go with one hand? You know what I'm saying? He said, you believe in God? I said, let go with one hand. So the guy lets go with one hand. Then he says, let go with one finger, etc. How long does it take till the guy says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'll deal with this myself? At a certain point, we just there's a limit to some people's emunah and betachin, right? We can only have this amount of emunah and betachin to a certain level. The Chazon Ish actually writes about this in Perek Beis, Sif Beis of emunah and betachin, about you want to see, put the pressure on, and then you'll see who's really a botech and who's not a botech. That's anyways, we have that kind of a situation where, think about this guy in his situation. Why is he not mad at the neighbor? The reason he's not mad at the neighbor is because he believes everything comes from Hashem. The Chayvus Halvavis writes that a person who has emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, b'tachan HaKadosh Baruch Hu, could go into the forest with all the lions and bears and tigers, oh my, and not be scared. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu's running the world. And if he's supposed to have something happen to him, it'll happen. If not, not. But what is all the nerves about?
So why do some people will daven, Hashem, say this person, this thing, this is doing bad to me. Please remove this evil from the world, as opposed to just forgetting about that evil and say, Hashem, I'm suffering. It doesn't matter why. I know it's because of you. Why don't we do that? Why don't we just go directly to Hashem? Sometimes we will say, there's an intermediary hurting me.
I don't know. I accept your question. I'm very happy that you asked, because this is the point that I'm really trying to drive home. I don't know that the first way that you said is really legitimate. And I'm going to tell you, that person, if the person is supposed to have something happen to him, if it's not going to be this guy, it's going to be the next guy. The Peliyot, I don't know if you've ever heard of that sefer, but if somebody would like to know, there's a shir that goes on, a fantastic shir that goes on that sefer on Shabbos afternoon in Avat Shalom, and you're welcome to join. But in that sefer, in Ois Pei, okay, anybody over here up to Ois Pei, like cheating, trying to get to the end of the book? So if you're ready up to Ois Pei, so on the letter Pedus, says the following story. This is a fascinating story. There was a man who he knew Sichos Chayes Voifes. He could understand what the birds and the animals were saying. And he was walking in the forest, and he heard that he's supposed to have a Geneva in his house at 2:00 Tuesday night. So he hears this, and he calls the police at Tuesday night, and he says, I'm going to have a Geneva, please, at 1:00, mistaking out my house from 1 to 3. and you're sure going to catch the local Ganav. And lo and behold, the Ganav comes, they arrest the Ganav, and then that guy is put away for life. Fine. He says, this is like a great thing, this going to the forest. I'm going to go again and see what's doing. It's better than going to your stockbroker to get an investment, right? So he goes to the forest, and he says he's going to have a fire at this and this time. So he goes out and he calls the fire department, and they come at that time, and then the fire starts, and then they put it out. So this guy's on a roll. He goes out the next week, and he hears that his child is going to die. You can't beat the game. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to get you, he will get you. Okay? So what we have to understand is that we have to have the tzara taken away from us. And Lev, I'd like to point out to you something, which is this is an unbelievable insight that I saw from Rav Ruderman this week, a fascinating insight. Chazal tell us that Yaakov Avinu was mispal for a nest to happen for Esav not to kill him. What actually happened? Any of you guys learn the parsha?
He tried to kill him. They kissed each other, and he tried to.
That's a medrash. That's a medrash.
Right.
But what happened in all in that, you don't understand. If you really wanted to kill him, so one feeble attempt for a Robert Schwarzenegger guy like that is not enough, right? He would have to try again. But so it says that the presence bought him off. For a Rasha like Esav to have a change of heart is a nes golui. So the Ruderman says it's a fascinating idea. In other words, we play it down, but in reality, it's an unbelievable story. Now, here he is, this guy. Yaakov ruined his life. Take a look from Esau's point of view. He was supposed to be Klal Yisrael. He was supposed to get the b'chayra. He was supposed to have the brachas. And Yaakov, at every moment, got into his shoes and took away his thing. And, Nakama is in place, so to speak. And he was a rich guy. Yeshli Kol, Yeshli Rav. He has a lot of money, right? He was bought up by a small little gift. This is unbelievable nice. But anyways, the bottom line is that a person asks, and I mentioned this the other day, you ask, you actually help me and take care of this guy, knock him off. So another guy will come. You say, I should take away my Shenebetzorah. We don't have to be micromanage God. Got that? Okay? He doesn't need micromanaging. Okay? He is micro and macro managing us. But we don't have to do that to him. Okay? So a person has to be mispalel that he should have the tzara go away. How it should go away? It's not Hayar Hashem Tzitzar. Tell me something, Lev. I can't remember who the guy who wrote the movie The Ten Commandments, right? We all know who the movie star was, but who wrote the movie, I don't remember, but at one time I did know. Imagine you were writing the movie. Okay?
The original one?
Who?
The original 10 Commandments?
No. That one is Einon Mavado. We never forget. Dalaf But I want you to know, I really enjoyed that joke, but I want you to know that 10 Commandments and the 10 Commandments I'm talking about, the yam that's behind Lev Seltzer doesn't even bridge the gap, okay? They're two totally different things. Anyways, but I appreciate that. Was very nice. I enjoyed that joke. Anyways, so I lost my thought over here. I want to know, you have the yam on one side, Nechoshim HaKravim on the other side.
We're talking about Chris
So now I
Yamsuf.
give you, what?
Chris Yamsuf.
Chris Yamsuf, right? So, okay, now I give you the pen. So write, what happened? How would you end up the story? If I was the guy there, I'd probably have that they all died of, corona. I don't know, something. I come up with some. But to say that the yams were split into 12, this idea is like, out of it. It's not. It's koshel is out in Kriyas Yamsuf since I want them heard this as a pshat, just as absurd, so to speak, Kriyas Yamsuf is for a way to end that drama, so too many shidduchim that are just as absurd as the way they are. So how HaKadosh Baruch Hu could work it out? HaKadosh Baruch Hu has enough ways. We don't have to give him any help. He could come up. He has enough of a ability. That's not the issue. But anyways, so we have this issue. The guy stood there and he said, and he's saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you're the one that made this happen. That is called emunah b'tachin, in doing the right thing. I heard
Cecil B. DeMille
Thank you
produced,
very much.
directed, and narrated the Ten Commandments.
I appreciate that very much. Okay, thank you. Okay, that was brought from Florida down south. You know, Disneyland, Disney World. It's not so far away, so he's like almost in Hollywood. Anyways, I would like to tell you a word that I heard from Malach Biederman. Okay, the Ness of Hanukkah, one of the most important symbolisms is the dreidel. So we know this. He didn't discuss this. We know that the Bnei Yissaschar writes, what's the difference between a dreidel and a grauger? A dreidel, right? So, but why is that? That the dreidel, the small part is on the dreidel, the small part is on the top, and the big part is on the bottom. And the grauger, the big part is on the top, and the little part is on the bottom. Why is that so? So the Bnei Yissaschar says that was different than Nisan. The Nes of Purim was a Nes Nister, and the Nes of Hanukkah was a Nes Goli. So where was the bulk of the Nes? So on Purim, the bulk of the Nes was in Shemayim, and down here it was very minuscule. You didn't really see what was going on because of B'derech HaTeva. So the symbol of the Chag is the Gregor that's big on the top and small on the bottom. Whereas on Hanukkah, the Nes was very big down here, so Mela was small on the top. So the reason why we have a dreidel, it's not stam that we have it that spinning top has a small top and a big bottom. Listen to this. I want to get a gimel, okay? You've all played dreidel. I want to get a gimel. Is it going to help me to spin it with a lot of koyach?
No.
No. Parnosa. Arishtadlus. We're spinning the dreidel. The koyach comes from Lamaila. And how many sivuvim you do also doesn't make you more gimel sure. If you could have that thing spin for 20 minutes, for 20 years, doesn't get you any closer to a gimel. Not only that, when your koyach ends, that's when the gimel could appear. You do your ishtadlus, and then the gimel could appear. Avada, we have to do our ishtadlus, we have to drape, but we have to know that everything comes from above. I said this over many years ago in shul, and I believe it's worthwhile saying over. I'm very nischazik from this story whenever I say it over because it's so beautiful and so poetic. The Mittler Chabadsker Rebbe was in jail, and they threatened him that he has to sign a certain document, and they told him that if you don't sign, we're going to kill you. You know, they took out their sword, and I don't know, they put it to his neck, to his chest, I don't know exactly what, but and they meant it, you know, it wasn't like a joke. And he said as follows, listen to this. This is almost like the essence of being a simple Jew. The people that are afraid of that weapon have one God and multiple lives. I, who have multiple lives and only one God, have nothing to fear. I do what I'm supposed to do. If what I'm supposed to do is get killed, I get killed. And then it's just like one of those other games. So you move on to the next level. Where do you go? You go to the Mabba. What do I have to be scared of? You can't threaten me. Threatening means that you're going to take away from me something that I have. You can't take away from a person who has emunah and betachin what he has or what he's supposed to get. This is a fascinating, this is a beautiful, poetic way of expressing what I think what every simple Jew believes. This is the koyach of the dreidel. Now, Yaakov Avinu has to fight with Sarah Shel Esav. How do you fight with Sarah Shel Esav? So I want to tell you something. I'm away here. I went to look over a shlah that I'm going to say over later, and my gaze came across a different shlah that's important to chazer over all the time. We learn, I'm right now quoting the shlah. This is not my opinion, I'm quoting the shlah. From this parsha, when Jews are oppressed by Goyim, we are not supposed to fight back. We are supposed to entreat again and again, and though they insult us again and again. And he proves this from the parsha, and he proves it from Chazal, that this is the way he's supposed to treat the Goyim until Mashiach comes. The Anti-Defamation League of B'nai Brith is against the Hashkafas HaTorah. We don't fight back. This never again, that we're going to fight back, that's not the Torah way. Okay, I'm not right now getting involved I don't want to get involved in that subject. If you remind me, maybe one time we'll dedicate some more time. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to defend yourself. I'm not right now discussing what it means, but we have to understand we are under their rule until Mashiach comes. The end. We cannot change that. The only way we can change that is when we become better Jews and bring Mashiach. No, we can change that. We can only change it the hard way. We have to do the overhaul on ourselves, not the overhaul on them. We can't plow them down. Anyways, Yaakov Avinu has to fight with Esav, so he prepares himself. B'doiron, b'tfila, u'b'mechama. As a last resort, he's going to go to Mechama. The Medrash says, "Vayivoser Yaakov levadoi," and Yaakov was left alone. And it says, "V'nizgav Hashem levadoi." The Medrash compares v'nizgav Hashem levadoi, that a person elevates Hashem, that Hashem alone is the person that he elevates. If I believe that all those people that have those things happen to me, cause those things to happen to me, come from Hashem, I would have less agmas nefesh. I would like to share with you my Rebbe, Moshe Halberstam, who was a unbelievable person. The personality was a genius of a personality in interpersonal relationships. And many times there would be ladies would come with questions in Hilchos Nida, and some of them were, I would say, were horrific. That she's like been usher for 65,000 years, and she has this kind of, all these kind of things. And he said once, I've heard it once the first time I heard it, and I've heard it many times from him afterwards. He said, if it's nigzar on you that you have to have tzoris, you should have Yiddish tzoris. Sometimes you can have tzoris, and they're goyish tzoris. You have a flat tire, that's a goyish tzar. A goy could have that tzar too. The tzar that a person has, that their usher is neither, that their usher, whatever, they can't do a mitzvah, that tzar that you have, it's part of your Yiddishkeit. You should be happy with it. It's a beautiful thought. Okay, if I have to have tzoris, I should have Yiddish tzoris. What would you rather have, that you're waiting for a minyan or you're waiting online in the bank? If you have to wait someplace, let it be that you're waiting for a minyan. Please, everybody, come on time to shul. Anyways, but that's one has nothing to do with the other. But let it be that you're uptight because you want to do a mitzvah. And if you have to be uptight with nigzer alecha, this is what the Chofetz Chaim says. The Chofetz Chaim says, if I have to have redifas happen to me, let there be of toiv chesed. If a person sees in everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge, then there's a level of sakana that he could put himself in and be as cool as a cucumber. Vayivosar Yaakov levadoi. Why was he able to be left alone? Was because v'nizgav Hashem levadoi. He saw everything that is working from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's vantage point. So if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I have nothing to be afraid of. Just like if the Chabadsker Rebbe could be like that, so Yaakov Avinu could be like that too, right? He could learn from his anicle, right? It's not right. That's a double portion. That person should have that ability. Now, I want to say something, which is an amazing thing, and we've discussed this a few times. This I also heard from Melch Bidem in an unbelievable story. There was a Rav in Tveria whose name was Moshe Kliers. Moshe Kliers, Mitzvah Hashem, as Shemitah arrives on us, Mitzvah Hashem next year, maybe intensify our learning of Shemitah, he wrote a fascinating sefer on Zroyim, and it's quoted quite a bit in Hilchos Shemitah. He was a big guy and a big tzaddik, and the person that became Rav after him in Tveria was someone by the name of Osher Werner. Osher Werner, he was actually, Dov Orbach is married to a Werner, and that's how he actually got that job. And also his inheritance from his father and all that stellar. But anyways, this Osher Werner held out a koilo, and every Rosh Chodesh he paid. Aryeh, pay attention. And it came one Leil Rosh Chodesh, and he had no money and he had to pay. And he was very distraught. Many years went by that he didn't have money, that he always had money to pay, and now he has no money to pay. He doesn't know what to do. He went to sleep. This is a Chassidish Maisa. Okay, so everybody who's not Chassidish, you may not get the story right away after. I just have to warn you about it in advance. Anyways, so he didn't know what to do, so he decided he's going to sleep. He went to sleep, and Moshe Kliers came to him in a dream with a very strange request. He said, Macha kava, make a coffee. Macha kava. And in the dream, he sees himself get up and make a coffee for Rav Moshe. And Rav Moshe says, das ist nicht kein kava, macha kava. And he makes another coffee, this one with more sugar, less sugar, more milk, whatever he's trying, different, figure out what this guy wants. How does he like his coffee, right? I don't know, there's no Starbucks deals, and they didn't have Starbucks in Tveria in the year 1890. Anyways, so fine, he makes a kava, the second one, and he says, das ist nicht kein kava, and then that's the end of the dream. Vayikatz Reb Osher Werner. What a strange dream. Here I am, I don't have anything to do. I have to pay my koilo, and the grace of tzaddik, the Rav, the last of it's where comes to me, and he wants a kava, will a kava. Was will mit a kava? A kava, kava el Hashem, machzach kava. You should believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, kava el Hashem. It's an unbelievable story. So he realized he has to do some avodas Hashem. So in the middle of the night, he went to the mikveh. On his way out of the mikveh, he met two gevirim that they just made a big business deal, and they couldn't carry their cash on them. They said, you could take it and hold it for us from other time, and that's why he had money to pay them off. Machzach hakava, make a kava, right? It's a push it shot, right? You just have to know how to interpret dreams. They should have called him Yosef Werner instead of Osher Werner, because he should have learned from Yosef HaTzadik how to interpret dreams. Anyways, a person finds himself in a situation, Chazal, and everybody tells us the part of Ishtadlis, that's Vada Ishtadlis, is to daven. Says the Shloah HaKodesh. And this is a fascinating thing. I would like to share it with you. I should have really written down the words of the Shloah, because it's a fascinating thing. This is a question which always bothered me. Why do I have to tell Hashem what I want? He knows. Mel, what do you say?
I guess you need to vocalize it.
Why?
Human nature.
What'd you say?
Human nature.
Human nature. So no, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is letting us get it off our chest.
It's for you. It's for yourself.
How does it help me? How does it help me?
You have to show that you know that's what you want.
That's excellent.
Right.
That's what the
Right.
Mabit says that answer. The Mabit says that answer. The Shlo says a different answer. And the Shlo says a fascinating answer, and I'd like to share it with you. The words of Tefillah, which are made up of the Oisiyos, HaKadoshos of the Torah, even uttering them is Poyel and Shemayim, as an ability to accomplish things. So anything that you say by vocalizing it, and you're using the Heilige Oisiyos Shenivro Bahem Shemayim Va'aretz, empowers that tefillah to a much greater level. So being that that's true, I think that we have a little bit of an understanding why it's important that tefillah has to be said and you have to vocalize the words. It's not enough to skim the page like we do in English books. In tefillah, you have to actually express it and you have to hear it. It has to be sounds of the Aleph Beis being said, and the tziruf of those oisiyos, says the Shloah Kodesh, they are something which is part of the tefillah. And it's more than that. I believe it's more than that. The Chofetz Chaim used to talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When's the last time any of you guys talked to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I know I sometimes talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu after I'm finished davening Shemona Esrei and I have some special request, so then I speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And not only that, I know that some Gedolei Yisrael, that when they have those supplications that they add into tefillah, they don't say it in Lashon HaKodesh. They say it in the language that they're the most comfortable in because they want to connect. It's horrible. You should be speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu from Ma Toivu in the morning until the last Amen after Aleinu. It should be a conversation. You're speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're not davening to nobody. You're speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to hear your tefillah. When we daven and we ask, and we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu can give, we've connected. Yaakov Avinu was a mispalo. It's very easy to be mispalo, but when you have to live real life situations, life becomes difficult. I had a question when I was a bocher, and I asked it to Marshi Rabbi Yitzchak Soloveitchik, and he didn't really like the question so much. I still don't know why. I think it's a very good question. And not only that, afterwards I saw that other Mefarshim actually discussed the question. And I gave an answer, which I thought was a very nice, brilliant answer to the question. And he didn't like that either. And I'm going to share with you the answer which I invented to the following question. It says, the Malach says, your name should be Yisrael, Kisarisa im Elokim v'ivanoshim batuchal, because you wrestled with angels and with humans, and you overcame them, you championed them. Very beautiful pasuk, and we understand why it's called Yisrael. I have a question. The derech of the Gemara is always Leizu Afsuk Tari. First you say the smaller Chiddush, and then you say a bigger Chiddush. Which is a bigger Chiddush? For Yaakov to overpower a malach, or for Yaakov to overpower a person? Tell me something. How do you overpower a malach? Like, where do you get him? You kick him in the shins? How do you do it exactly? I don't really know. Tell me, how do you kill a ghost? How do you win a malach? Anybody have any tips? Can we Google that one and get an answer? Whoever got that answer for who wrote the 10 Commandments, maybe you could find me how to kill a malach on Google. How's that for a challenge? Anyways, the bottom line to me is that to kill a malach is a bigger chiddush than to be able to overcome a man. So the pasuk sure said, "Kisarisa im anoshim v'melokim batuchal." Why did it say it the other way around? The Chassidim asked a kasha, they should have called him Yochel. Why? Because the point is that he was victorious. You should be a tuchel, do a Yocheltzach. That's what they say in Yiddish. It's the Yocheltzach. You can. But anyways, that's the question. The answer to the question, which I gave, is because it's easier when you're in the Beis Medrash to be a tzaddik. When you're all in the world of ruchnius, to be a tzaddik is very easy. But when you're out there on the street, it's not so easy. How do I know that it's not true? I know this is true because we know that the Vilna Gaon one time asked the Dubna Magid to give him Musar. So the Dubna Magid told him, he says, big deal, you're the Vilna Gaon here in your little room that you don't go out and do business. That's no kunz. Go into business, go and deal with people on the street, and let's see if you're talking out to be a Vilna Gaon over there. And you know what the Vilna Gaon said? I'm not a kunstmacher. It could be true. He doesn't want to. I'll tell you, the Sayon, because many times a person's Balidei Nisayon is Balidei Bizayon. He becomes embarrassed. So, anyways, the bottom line over here is that there is an issue that a person has to, when he could be a tzaddik in the Beis Medrash and in business, a cutthroat guy. Kisarisa Melokim is one thing, but imanoshim, and to still say Yankov Avinu, even though you have to deal with these people which are the lower levels of society and still come out smelling like a rose, that's a bigger chiddush. That's a bigger chiddush. So how do you do that? You have to have koyach from beforehand. And this is an akuda. This is an akuda of our shtadlis. If we understand that what we're doing is really we're just playing out what a Kadosh Baruch Hu asked us to do, then we're not worried about it. A person has to realize I have so much to do. And I'm going to share with you a personal story which made a very big rosham on me when I was about 17 or 18 years old. My parents drove, my parents drove from Detroit to Scranton, Pennsylvania, where I was in yeshiva, and we're going to a chasna in New York. And they slept over in Scranton, and we're supposed to go. The next morning, we're supposed to go to New York. And I had to go somewhere in the morning. I get into the car, my father's car, I try to start it, dead. So I told my father, where's my father? He's in the Beis Medrash. Where should he be, right? He's in the Beis Medrash learning. And I tell him the car not going. So he says, so you come from these parts, go and find out who the mechanic, go take care of the car. And he goes back to the Beis Medrash and he's learning. And then I try one thing and it doesn't work. And I come back and I tell my father this. It's just try, 4 or 5 times I come to report to my father what's going on. And the reason why I reported is because I understood here he came 10 hours to go to New York. And here we are stranded. Who's what's going to happen? He must be uptight. And he looks at me and he says, I'm on vacation. I can learn now. Why are you bothering me? So I said, don't you want to get to New York? So he says, I gave you that job. Now let me learn. He did his ishtadlis. He left me with the hot potato. But now he should go and learn. Why do 2 people have to not be in the Beis Medrash? And I said to him, maybe we'll miss the chasna. So he looks up at me and he says, maybe. What does that do with anything? Gotta learn. I did my ishtadlis to go to this wedding, and you make it happen. Back to the Gemara. What does Taisa say? Well, we'll be zeicha to do our ishtadlis, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless us that the ishtadlis that we have actually bring about success, as Yaakov did, and we should be zeicha by Vasil Avadai, and we should see Eloim Milvada, we should zeicha to have the Pachim Ktanim, that the nest of Chanukah should expand to bring us the Gula Shleil B'Meira.